Hello, everyone. Yesterday and today saw a continuation of the litany of lies distributed by the Trump administration, including Trump himself, about the war in Ukraine. He really wants that feather in his hat. And that is something I want everybody to remember. This man doesn't care about Ukrainian people. He doesn't care about Russian people. He doesn't care about children being killed in their kindergartens. He doesn't care. What he wants is, like I said, a feather in his hat. He wants to be able to boast that he ended the war in Ukraine, the biggest conflict we've had to date since World War II. That's all he wants. And so whenever you read or listen to what he says and watch what he does, remember that. When you look at it from that angle, everything he says and does becomes a lot more clear. So, what is the latest? He says that the UK and France haven't done enough or haven't done anything to end the war in Ukraine. That is a lie. Both UK and France have been among the staunchest allies of Ukraine, which is remarkable because they at least don't share a border with Russia. Unlike the countries that used to be part of the Russian Empire, like Finland, like Poland, like the Baltic states. These guys are a little bit more removed. However, once again, they remember World War II. They remember being invaded. They remember being pummeled. They remember having to fight the good fight on their own without any help. So, what have they done? In addition to the financial assistance, they have housed some of the Ukrainian refugees. They have provided weapons, including airplanes and drones, both of which incredibly important. They have trained Ukrainian soldiers, particularly France, trained Ukrainian pilots to use F-16s. That all happened in France. And the biggest contribution, and that is one of those that people cannot see, Ukraine, UK, and France have been tremendous intelligence gathering collaborators. So when you see information about an object being struck somewhere in Russia, or the exact count of casualties when Russia strikes Ukraine, that comes from the collaborative intelligence efforts between those three countries. But since it involves the word intelligence, Trump isn't capable of understanding or appreciating it. Trump finally acknowledges that Russia had invaded Ukraine. However, he immediately turns around and blames Joe Biden. That somehow Joe Biden should have kept Putin from attacking Ukraine. Okay. And he insists he wants to basically rob Ukraine of 50% of its rare minerals. And in addition, he is threatening Ukraine with disabling its Starlink access. Elon Musk. Starlink. Does everybody remember that? If Ukraine does not comply. That is blackmail. What I would suggest for Ukraine is, again, if they're not doing that already, start talking to Europe and figure out what you have as an alternative to Starlink. You can no longer depend on the service provided by Elon Musk for anything. Do you remember that little stunt he pulled when he disabled Starlink uplink during a major attack, thus basically disrupting it? Yeah, we know now. So, like pretty much the rest of Europe, Ukraine needs to stop its dependency on both Russia and US for anything. And do it that way. And then there is the scandalous UN resolution, which US doesn't like because they don't want any mention of Ukrainian territory invaded by Russia. I wonder why that is. Again, I know it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, even though it's being discussed by the Russian parliament, but I kind of do now wish that Russia would invade Alaska, because they have been talking about this. I think that would be interesting. And meanwhile, Russian drone killed another Ukrainian civilian. Figures. Nothing new there. Happens every day. There is a big article on the NPR website, and you can listen to it too, talking about this question: can there be peace in Ukraine, or Putin just playing for time? You don't need that long of an article. It's not a long story. Yes, he's absolutely playing for time. And the only way there could ever be peace in Ukraine if the world responded to Putin the way it eventually responded to Hitler, eventually being the key word there. If countries of the world banded together against this particular threat and pushed back as far as possible, chasing that particular rat into its hole and establishing a demilitarized zone between Russia and all of its neighbors, then there could be peace in Ukraine. Under no other circumstances. Right now, yes, Putin is playing for time. There's your answer. Move right along. What are the potential outcomes? Well, one is conceding to Russia. Russia keeps 1/5 of Ukrainian territory. Ukraine is under perpetual threat. Russia basically spends the next couple of years pulling together more weapons, more troops, etc., and eventually attacks the rest of Ukraine and faces off with Europe. That's outcome number one. Number two, Russia overruns all of Ukraine immediately, and Ukraine ceases to exist as a country. Number three, EU cuts its umbilical cord with the US, rallies other countries of the world, like maybe Australia and New Zealand, anybody else who is opposed to this outrage, puts boots on the ground and drives Russia off Ukrainian territory and helps establish a demilitarized zone between, like I said, Russia and all its neighbors. Those are the three outcomes. There is those $300 billion in frozen assets sitting in Europe. I think we should unfreeze them and use them. It's time, guys. It's time. This is a way to disassociate from the US and not need the US for this. BBC went and actually talked to Russians after 3 years of war. On one hand, Russians agree that Trump doesn't have any plan and he's an idiot. On the other hand, for people who keep telling me, but not all Russians are like that. Oh yeah? How about this? We want Ukraine's total capitulation. Remember, this is the blessing and the curse of somebody who is multilingual, which I am. I can read Russian posts on Telegraph, on X, on Facebook, on TikTok, in their original version. I don't have the language barrier. And trust me, these are the people who gleefully celebrate when another Russian missile hits another Ukrainian kindergarten. So this surprises me not at all. Don't tell me not all Russians. There's a big article on Kyiv Independent. It's huge. It's a big interview. Read it. It is fascinating. Once again, it addresses the question of what EU has done, because I feel Americans are not being informed enough on this subject. And this includes, the housing of the refugees, the economic aid, the military aid, the training, etc. Excellent piece. 2 more things. We got another oil pumping station in Russia. And food for thought. February 24th is only 2 days away. Consider this. Слава Україні!